All right, we are live. Hello, Shelby. Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday!
How's it going over in Aggie land?
Well, I'm in Dallas, so I don't know how Aggie Land's going.
Well, that's close
But
enough. Texas, that whole state, yeah, it's applicable.
it's half Aggie Land, half Longhorn Land, and we'll throw in Lubbock.
I was about to say we need to put some spec on Lubbock. They earned it this weekend, didn't they?
God bless Lubbock.
Yeah, I figured that one would make you happy.
But can we just okay? So apparently Texas Tech has now rushed the field 2 weeks in a row. They beat number 25 Houston, rushed the field. Number 22 Texas rushed the field. Why, guys?
I was going to ask you, as a Florida fan, it's generally agreed upon that we do not rush the field. There hasn't, it's not uncommon to us. I'm sure most fans of major programs believe that or feel that way. What's your take on it? What would you want to see to make you want to rush the field?
Beating Alabama was worthy of it. That was a fun time. 7 overtimes LSU.
Did y'all rush the field in that game?
After beating Bama? Oh, hell yeah. I wasn't there, sadly. My sister was supposed to be there with my mom, but there was an issue with her ticket. And she's like, it's okay, we're not going to win anyway. Well.
Famous last words.
Seth Small had other plans.
Yep.
And Zachary Calzada, who at graduation, they announced him as Zachary 38. What was it? What was the score? 38?
34, 31.
Something like that. They put the score in his graduation announcement.
Good for him.
And then he transferred to Auburn, and now he's getting shoulder surgery again. So whatever happened last year really fucked him up. Poor thing.
Poor guy.
Either that, or he saw the Auburn offensive line and was like,
"Yeah,
not right."
I think that everybody's trying to get off of that sinking ship.
Apparently, he was fully suited up last week, even though 3 days before last weekend was when it came out that he was getting surgery that ended his season, yet he was suited up on the sideline last week. So now I'm confused.
So while we're getting started here, did you have what games besides the you didn't even watch the Texas A&M game, did you? You were at was that last week?
I didn't watch Miami's A&M Miami game. I was at A&M Arkansas.
Gotcha. I couldn't remember.
I saw the Oink Doink.
You saw the Oink Doink. So, did you catch any other games besides Texas A&M's that you found interesting?
I watched the beginning of Florida, Tennessee. I watched the highlights of Texas Tech, even though that doesn't apply to us, but I did watch the highlights of that because it made me happy inside. But otherwise, I was at AT&T Stadium from 5 o'clock to 11 o'clock.
Gotcha. Well, in my opinion, you missed a pretty good week of or you chose a good week to miss football. Nothing important happened. No teams got their second win in 20 years this weekend. As far as I'm concerned, you chose a great week to be at AT&T Stadium, not watching other teams play.
Of course not. Of course. Nothing important happened at all.
For me personally, I would have to say that Middle Tennessee State University earned my respect because I don't know how maybe since you guys have played and are going to play next year, I don't know how much interactions you have with Miami fans. But they're bad. Like
I follow them. I saw a couple on Twitter. We had the spectrum of, oh my God, Kyle Field is amazing. Y'all are so loud. Everything is great. To why the hell did it take me an hour and a half to get back to my hotel? And I said, okay, hold on. It took you an hour and a half to get from Kyle Field back to your hotel with food? Dude, where did you go?
What's funny about that is that Hard Rock Stadium is 45 minutes away from the University of Miami's campus.
Yeah, so they're like, oh, I love on-campus stadiums until it takes me an hour and a half to get back to my hotel with food. And I'm like, dude, it took me probably 2 hours with food at least to get back to my apartment on game day.
So, as a native Floridian here, living in the Panhandle, I don't. I would say Miami's probably about fifth in terms of popularity, with Florida, Florida State, Georgia, and Alabama being above them, maybe even six with Auburn in there. I mean, we kind of are a hodgepodge in my area. But the Miami fans I do know, it's always a really interesting cross section because none of them have ever. And let me preface this by saying that this is not an indicator of the quality of your fandom or anything like that. Most of them have never even stepped foot on the University of Miami, much less attended it or graduated from it or anything like that. Again, that's not the be all end all for college football fandom. Don't take it as I mean that way. But they also have never even gone to games, and that's evidenced by the fact that anytime you watch a Miami Hurricanes football game, there's like 14 people in the stadium, and I just don't understand how Tennessee kind of, to me, in my opinion, the big three of we back is Texas, Tennessee, and Miami. Those three schools, every time they get a modicum of success, they're back. The U is back. Let me put it this way: the U, horns down, and hey, Rocky Top's on top right now. So I can't make. I don't know what hand gesture I could make, but I could always just do what Gerald Mincey did and just flip people off because that's Tennessee for you. But
No tennis balls.
what?
So tennis balls.
Yeah, throw tennis, golf balls, mustard, the
All the
standard.
things. There we go.
Yeah,
Golf balls.
all the things.
A little yellow ball, and my brain went tennis, and I was like, that's not right. Too big.
But yeah, that's definitely my good news for you guys. Middle Tennessee State University has made everybody forget about App State, and
Except for
even I'm sure there's others, but mind you,
haven't forgotten.
yeah, they won't forget. This is the same App State that just lost to James Madison University. And so I say kick Vandy out of the SEC and bring James Madison directly from FCS into the SEC.
How we get? Okay, no, you got to kick Missouri out if we're kicking somebody. Because Vandy at least brings baseball and brings that conference GPA up. What is Missouri?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, and when I was younger, Missouri had they had Chase Daniels, and then Gary Pinkel was running the show, and they had an interesting offense, and growing up, Missouri was maybe not good, but a threat. I mean, when they were in the Big 12, and then when they came to the SEC, the first 2 years they won the East, and then since then, man, I feel like even they used to be good at basketball too. I don't know. I'm with you. They just do not contribute much to the SEC, and their coach is a dweeb, and I hope that they fire him and hire Dan Mullen so that they can have the dweeb that they hate as much as we hate their dweeb. So that's my take on Missouri. That's really all that I need to say about Missouri is in Columbia, Missouri.
Missouri?
Missouri, yes.
And it's going to be more misery this week as they play Georgia at home. So let's see how many fans actually show up for that one.
Minus 28 is the spread on that too. You think?
That's it?
Yeah. So let's go ahead and start running through our notes here. We'll start off with Georgia since a natural segue there from Missouri. Did you obviously didn't get a chance to watch much of that game. I don't think, and I told Mitch and Matt this, at no point in time in that game was Kent State really ever even close to beating Bama. Like, I I think that the Georgia fans watching that game, and for their sake, hopefully the players too, kind of had a wake up call that you can't sleepwalk. You can't eat the rat poison, as Nick Saban would say. Like kind of like I was telling you, we talked about it last week. To me, there's 5 teams or so that have so much talent and are so good and have the same system and have stability that a Kent State or an App State or a USF or whoever isn't going to be able to come in and take a dub. And Georgia was one of those teams. And if you go and look, Georgia played probably the worst game that anybody could have anticipated, and still was ahead by 2 scores the entire game. I mean, they had like 4 turnovers in the first half. They turned the ball over inside the like 10-yard line. I mean, it was just a perfect storm of things to go wrong. And, Georgia still really kind of blew them out. And I think that right now there's not a lot of parity in college football. Those 5 teams are probably going to be the 4 of those 5 teams. Michigan and Ohio State might knock each other off. But those 5 teams are going to be the ones that we see in the CFP, in my opinion. And I think that's to me, that's a kind of good line in the sand of what 5 teams, when you watch them play, do you think could withstand the best game of a Marshall's life? And obviously Notre Dame wasn't one of those teams, but I don't think that the 5 teams in my mind that are the best would have to worry about that.
Oh, poor Notre Dame.
They deserve it. So are you envisioning a bloodletting from Georgia against the other Tigers?
Honestly, rest in peace, Missouri. And like they didn't lose to Auburn. They lost to themselves because they literally didn't want to win. I caught the end of that one. Oh, trust me, I caught the end of that one.
That's rough. That was just.
What were you doing, friend?
There was a play. The Cardinals were playing. Crap, I can't remember who they were playing, but it was the past week on Monday Night Football, I believe, and it was an overtime, and the guy from the Cardinals either had a fumble return for a touchdown or a pick six for a touchdown to end the game. But they reviewed it at the end because he almost Deshaun Jackson did, to where he starts celebrating and it looked like he may have dropped the ball before he crossed the end zone. And, to me, that's the thing that I feel like people just are not careful about anymore. They reach for that pylon, they start, throwing their hands up, and they drop that ball at the 1-yard line. And I hate the rule. I hate that if the ball goes out of the end zone, it's a touchback. That's a dumb rule to me. But that's a topic for another day.
Let's see. Clemson 2019 when we played Clemson? I think it was 2019 because we played like 4 number 1 teams in one season. That touchback ruined that game. You saw KJ Jefferson's what was it?
Yeah.
Dive for the goal line, yards out. And I was like, honey, what are you doing? Yeah. What is you doing?
Any Florida fans watching that, my first thought was Jordan Reed against Georgia in 2012, because he did the same thing to where he tried to like Superman dive from like the 6-yard line, and he's just like reaching the ball out, diving, and he is easily 10 feet short of the goal line. And of course, Georgia's linebacker just pops the ball out because he's literally just like holding it like, here, you take it. And like everybody was just like, what? And that's how I felt with KJ Jefferson, to where it's like, oh, what are you doing? You can't do that right there.
And I'm sorry to everyone who wants to say that Tyreek Chappelle's forward progress was stopped. It doesn't freaking matter because it wasn't called that way. So you can argue all you want, but it was a touchdown and it won us the game.
Yeah, my take on that is pretty much always hold that whistle. When if it were against my team, I would probably be complaining about it. But in general, I like to see the referees not be quick with the whistle and let guys, nowadays, you're taught to keep your legs moving. The offensive linemen come and push, and it turns into a bit of a scrum. And to me, when those things are happening, it's advantageous for the defense because you're taught to stand your guy up and rip at the ball and try and force a fumble. I mean, we saw it not necessarily with a forward progress, but our linebacker, he came in and just punched the ball out, and that's what people are taught to do these days. And then on the offensive side, I mean, hey, if you can't bring me down, I'm not going to go down for you. Like, I'm going to keep moving until I hear a whistle blow or my knees on the ground. And I generally prefer to see the referees keep the whistle down when forward progress is like that. Just because it's one of those things to where once it's called, it's not reviewable. It's not a spot foul, or you could review the spot of it, but you can't review when forward progress was stopped. And so once the whistle blows, it can really make things it can just destroy momentum.
We were sitting in the opposite end zone, so all I saw was the fumble happen from the other side of the field, and then I saw Tyreek grab the ball, and I was like, "All right, we're all excited." And then all of a sudden, Damani's running towards us, and we're like, "What is happening right now? What's happening right now?" And I don't think I've ever been so lit before in my life. I was like, guys. And literally not 2 minutes before, my sorority little was sitting right next to me. And she goes, "We're losing this game." And I said, "Don't put that in the fucking universe." God, don't put that in the universe.
Hey, you guys pulled it out
she sat down the whole last 6 minutes of the game because she sat down and we scored a touchdown. She was like, "Can't get back up now." I was like, "No, you can't."
Yeah.
Sorry.
Going back to what we talked about last week, I have my I thought I had my lucky hat and outfit, and then we lost to Kentucky, and then I realized it was not lucky. So I just, past USF, I also felt like it was not lucky because that game was a lot closer than it should have been. So going into Tennessee, I was like, you know what? I'm going to wear what's comfortable. But the one superstition I do have is when I'm watching the game, I have an ottoman that I'll sit on. And if I'm standing up and something good happens, then I have to stay standing until something bad happens. And then if something good happens when I'm sitting down, I have to stay seated, And it's just totally normal, logical lines of thinking that any football fan has. I didn't have the right hat on, so of course these 85 young men played differently than they would have if this individual hundreds of miles away was wearing the right socks.
Florida 2020. I got up to go to the bathroom. I came back and I sat on the kitchen floor. I don't know why I sat on the kitchen floor, but I did. So I sat on the kitchen floor, and then we scored a touchdown. And I was like, I can't move. Mom was like, "Can you come into this living room, please?" I was like, "Nope, sure can't."
Yep.
Sure can't. I think that was the Caleb Chapman touchdown in which he tore his ACL, though. So there's that.
One of three.
Now he's at Oregon.
How's he doing this year?
I'm pretty sure he scored a touchdown for them at least once. I saw, at least from what I've seen. But I wish the best for him. I do. Because he wasn't going to get the playing time here. So we were like, okay, well, it is what it is.
Good luck. Good luck on your future endeavors.
And I'm not one of those people. I get really upset with people that are like, "Oh, well, they left, so we don't care about them anymore." And I'm like, no, guys. Especially A&M fans. I'm like, you say the once an Aggie, always an Aggie thing, but then the second someone leaves your program, you're like, well, we don't give a shit about them anymore. And I'm like, so
yeah,
not an Aggie, always an Aggie?
To me, it's very subjective. We had a few guys transfer out just to kind of use examples. So Jacob Copeland probably was our best receiver and probably would have been maybe our second best receiver with Ricky Pearsall. But he transferred to Maryland, but he was just, man, I don't know how many, judging by the parking lot video, I'm assuming there's a few, but one thing Dan Mullen seemed to attract was guys who really like to tweet, especially when they're emotional. And so Jacob Copeland was a fan of tweeting out stuff and just kind of being of a shitter, really.
Leon,
He definitely did not have good enough hands to tweet as much as he did. So yeah, exactly. Yeah, his thumbs were really good. The rest of his hands were made up of cucumbers or something. But he once a gator, always a gator. Nah, not when you're a shitbird. Some guys who spend 2, 3, 4, whatever years here, and I don't care if they never play, but they don't have any problems. They don't ever get in trouble. They don't ever make anybody look bad or say stupid stuff. To me, those guys, I'll always be like, oh yeah, he was at Florida, now he's at wherever, and good luck to him. Some people, I'm like, you know what, like Mamu Diabate, who's at Utah. One thing we all were excited to see was us the rematch with him, because he was another one of those guys who had active Twitter fingers, and when he went to Utah, we were like, yeah, it's the perfect place for him. That way, he doesn't have to worry about LSU's right guard pancaking him for an entire game like they did last year.
Yikes. Reminds me of Leon O'Neal. He's not even at A&M anymore, and he's still got major Twitter fingers.
I remember him as a recruit, man. Where's he at now? I thought he was still there.
No, he left. He was picked up by the Niners as a
okay.
free agent, and then was cut, and is now tweeting about how great he is and how
classic.
he's on an NFL team and this. And I'm like, Leon, my friend, wake him up. You're not good. You never were. Sorry. Ouch.
This seems like another natural segue here. Speaking of safeties who think they're a lot better than they are and go to Twitter to voice their displeasure, I'm not sure if you've seen the clips yet, but there was a play. There were more than one, but one in particular from Saturday where number 0, our 6-year starting safety, who has started about 50 games in his college career, decided to turn football into a spectator sport. And by that, I mean Tennessee motioned a wide receiver probably 2 yards, maybe 4 yards over, and the guy covering him motions with him, and then our safety stands still. And at the snap of the ball, the guy lined up in front of our safety, right, just runs right past him. And Trey Dean just doesn't move at all. Doesn't even acknowledge Brew McCoy's existence as he runs wide open down the field for a 70-yard gain. And he is probably the most maligned player on our team, just because he has a tendency to stand up and flex his muscles after giving up a 3rd and 16 conversion. Or, he'll get trucked by a running back and then come back and tackle him 10 yards downfield and stand up and just be like, yeah, I did it.
I did
right
it, man.
Here. That was all me. And so everybody's kind of just like, God, this guy, what is wrong with this guy? And he was responsible for, I want to say, 200 coverage yards. He was targeted and gave up over 200 yards in coverage. But he is injured this week, and we get to see a new face for the first time in years. And it's funny to hear, because he's done so the reason why it's interesting is he texted and DM'd fans who yes, right, my boy Kamari Wilson, excited for him. But he tweeted, texted, and DM'd fans who, no, Kamari Wilson from Fort Myers, Florida, should not have been a dog, and at no point in time should Florida players go to Georgia. But we're working on building that border up. That's one wall I can support. But so where was I? These dogs and balls jumping in here, throwing off my train of thought here. So he searched and found their phone numbers and actually sent what he referred to as greasy fans text messages saying how he didn't mess up his assignment. They were actually in zone coverage, and he messaged a reporter asking for him to take a video down and to where he showed the 200 yards he gave up. And to me, it's kind of rough because I feel like as fans, obviously we're entitled to our opinion. I also feel like a lot of people take it too far, and it turns into a bit of a mob mentality, especially on like Twitter and social media and stuff, to where once a small section of the fan base starts to really hammer on a player, other people start to kind of get into that group think, and then you have thousands of people all complaining about the same player. And in some cases, it's warranted. Honestly, probably in a lot of cases, it's warranted. I just personally don't really agree with a bunch of grown folk tweeting at a 20-something-year-old telling them how awful they are.
Don't tweet recruits.
Yeah, don't treat recruits. Don't tweet players. Players, I know that we have a broad college football player audience. I know that there are thousands of D1 athletes listening to this podcast right now. Thousands. You're going to get mean tweets. And if you can't handle it, don't log into Twitter after you have a bad game. I mean, when you go pro, look at Kevin Durant. Like, Kevin Durant's done this so many times, and every time he does it, it's so embarrassing. And Kevin Durant's a Hall of Famer. Like, Kevin Durant, the fact that he gets so in his feels because somebody says something bad about him, that he gets on a burner and goes at, like, I don't understand it from either side. I'm glad that I'm old enough not to care about social media and young enough to laugh about it. That's my only thought on it, But yeah, the fact that Trading went after Gracie fans was one of the funnier things to transpire this week. And now he's hurt. I don't know what happened. Hopefully he's okay. Just because he missed an assignment. Kid's been a good Gator. He's using his NIL stuff for a good cause. Aside from the flexing and missing assignments, which he's a young dude. That's my only gripe with the guy. But now that he's went after fans, I'm a little less empathetic towards him.
Speaking of injuries, Anais Smith, ouch.
Yeah, that's rough.
I am heartbroken for the kid. Heartbroken. Like, that is definitely the definition of once an Aggie, always an Aggie.
Yeah.
Like, he is probably one of the best, like, not athletes to wear maroon and white, because definitely we've had better athletes. Not saying that he's not, but he is one of the best people to have ever worn maroon and white. So I'm like, oh, yeah. I feel so sad, and I hope he comes back. I hope, because I don't see his NFL draft stock high enough yet that I could see him.
How long has he been at Texas A&M? Because I feel like
he's a regular senior.
So 4 years.
4 years. So this would be he'd be coming back for a 5th year.
Because I'm trying to remember. We played in 2020. We're playing this year. When was the other time we played? 20. Besides not the Johnny Manziel. I thought there was one in there.
That Tyrell Dodson got the interception. 2017 or 2018.
Something like that. I wanted to say 2018 as well, but I wasn't sure.
2017. Now I have to Google it.
Yeah, same. But I for some reason I thought that he was on the team pretty much every time we've played. And obviously 2020 would make sense if he's a senior, but for some reason I thought he was. So 2017. Okay.
Load faster. That's 2020. 2017, yeah.
Yeah.
19 to 17.
Oh, it makes sense as to why I just 2017 and 2013. Those 2 seasons are just mentally blocked out. None of those games actually happened. Those seasons did not actually exist, and I don't remember any of their outcomes. Um,
I'm pretty sure your quarterback threw it right to Tyrell Dodson. And the
yeah,
fact that Dodson got that interception, he hadn't done much of anything. And of course, he's still an NFL roster, so I can't say much.
I
But
mean,
like,
I'm pretty sure that was Felipe Franks that threw it right to him, and he's on an NFL roster too. So make it make sense.
Kyle Allen though, so
That's true. Yeah, Trent Brown is a guy who, when he was at Florida, he played for Will Muschamp, and he was a right guard, right? And generally, your offensive line, your tackles are your tallest, your guards are your stockiest, and generally your center is the shortest, about the same size as a guard. 6'3" ish. Tackles are usually like 6'6" plus. So Trent Brown's like 6'8", 6'9" maybe, and like 350, 360. And we had him playing at right guard. And we had, Treon Harris back there who's like 5'10" maybe. And I swear he probably threw like 4 passes just directly into the back of Trent Brown's helmet. And then fast forward like 7 years, and Trent Brown's the highest paid offensive lineman in NFL history. And it's like, as a right tackle. And you're like, how? How did Will Muschamp play a guy like high school coaches know you don't put your tallest lineman at guard because your quarterback's going to peg him in the back of the head with the football because he can't throw it over him. Will Muschamp didn't know that. All right, well, it looks like we need to get to some picks. So, what you got? Anything else you want to add in for the Oink Doink and the?
Oh, the Oink Doink was my new favorite thing. I was babysitting last night, and they asked me if I went to a football game because they went to Friday Night Lights to a high school football game. I said, yeah, I went to one on Saturday. And they said, oh, did you win? And I said, yeah, do you want to see how I
won? Yeah, I got to explain to my wife what a doink was.
Man, this little 6-year-old boy looked at me. He watches the video and goes, Miss Ward, that's not supposed to do that. I said, no, baby, it's not.
Oh, bless it. Bless his heart.
He was so Miss Ward, that's not supposed to do that. I said, nope. Oink Doink. Of course, this is my only comment, and I'll be done. Everybody acts like that's what won the game. Like we didn't have a minute and a half left if they would have made the field goal.
So, I'm glad that you said that, because before we get to picks, I want to talk about my Florida Gators a little bit. As we were kind of talking about off air, obviously, it was a good game. Tennessee really and truly had control of that game pretty much for the whole second half. And part of that was from one of the decisions that a lot of people have griped about, and that was Billy Napier taking a timeout, 3rd and 10 with about 90 seconds left in the second quarter, approximately. And we ended up giving up, I want to say it was a draw. I can't remember, but we end up letting them convert the first down. And then on the very next play, Hooker hit the 45 or so yard pass to Keaton, who made the incredible diving catch. And then we end up letting Tennessee go 99 yards and score a touchdown right before halftime. And a lot of people questioned the decision to take a timeout there. And to me, I mean, we went for it on 4th down 6 times. To me, I love seeing aggressive coaches, aggressive calls. And to me, that's what you're doing. If it's 3rd and 10, you got to put your you got to put your team out there and give them a chance to make a stop and get the ball back. And that's a good stat. AR 453 yards. We take those, as the kids say. But it just backfired. A lot of people didn't like it because they felt like it gave Tennessee a chance to make that play. I mean, to me, Tennessee just made a play. It happens. And then the other big one was in the fourth quarter. We scored a touchdown to cut it from 17 to 11. And Billy Napier chose to go for a 2-point conversion. And at the time, and if I'm being 100% honest, I would have kicked the extra point. At the time, I was like, what the hell is this guy do? Why are you going for two? A 9-point game? Um, I've since read and seen a lot of the analytical standpoint from it, and that's essentially was his reasoning was, hey, in this situation, the analytics say you do this, and win probability went up like twice as much from the extra point or the 2-point conversion attempt. Logically, as a football non-statistician, to me it was odd. I also see the reasoning behind it. But that was one that people still are arguing about. And it's like, I've had to tell so many people, hey, you do realize after we scored that touchdown to make it an 11-point game, Tennessee had the ball back and went down the field and got to the 30-yard line, and it was 4th and 3. And instead of lining up to kick a field goal, Tennessee went for it because if they convert that, the game's over. I mean, it just there's no other way around it. We didn't have any timeouts. But we stop them, we get the ball back, then we go down and score a touchdown. And so then we go for another 2-point conversion and we miss it. So it's a 5-point game. And at this point, people are like, oh, if he would have just kicked the extra points, it would have been a 3-point game. We convert the onside kick, and now we can kick a field goal to try and tie it. And to me, it's just insane that people don't realize that had Tennessee been up by 10 instead of 11, Tennessee could have just kicked a field goal instead of going for it on 4th and 3 and then made it a 13-point game. And then the difference is exactly the same. So it's like when you're talking about these different scenarios and outcomes and a play or a decision that would have changed because it gets highlighted and brought to the forefront, like you're saying, you guys had time left. Like, even if they make the field goal, you guys could have just went down and kicked another field goal. Like, it's not like there was no time left, and so it's like people are like, oh, well, if he hadn't have done this, then all of these other things would have stayed exactly the same. It would have been different. It's like, well, how can you go back and say if you change this one thing, nothing else is going to change afterwards? Like, it just doesn't work like that. Like, that's not how statistics or probability or life works. But
I think it's still the best way to win a football game.
Do what?
The Oink Doink will still forever be the best.
That's that heave the cleave is one of my favorite. Yeah, but the 7 overtime game, I remember watching that game, and that's one that I'll never forget that game. I wish it had a good name. 7 overtime LSU Texas A&M game. It's kind of a mouthful. Does it not really?
It's just the 7 overtime game.
True. That's true. Yeah. Dargan, our hidden evil guy that pretends like he's nice, but really deep down we know what Dargan does. He's the oinker in the group. We'll have to get him on, get him to maybe next week. We'll
let me tell you, I'm gonna punch the lady that was sitting behind me when Anais went down. And I messaged y'all about this. When Anais went down, he goes, they're just faking another injury to get a timeout. That's why he's laying there and not moving?
I'll have to find the clip, but number 21 on Tennessee's defense had the most obvious fake injury I've ever seen in our game. Literally, we were lining up. I want to say it was the last touchdown we scored, maybe the second to last, towards the end of the game. And he was playing, and literally we were basically getting up to the line. We're running, hurry up. We were in a huddle. I mean, and we get up to the line, and then he like looks over to the sideline, and it looks like he's trying to get the play in, and then he looks, and then he just falls down. And you're like, what? And then he's like pointing to his leg, and then he gets up and he walks off and he's smiling, and you're just like, okay, well, it's part of gamesmanship, but yeah, it's one of those things to where you never want to see anybody get injured, but you also never want to see anybody fake an injury. It's just kind of funny to see. But
sitting there and I was like, you can't be serious. She's like, no, he'll be in on the next play. And at the end of the game, I wanted to turn around and go, he was never back in case you missed that. Also, he was in the arms of his father crying. If you missed that too.
People just heartless, man. They don't care.
Fans.
Yeah.
And apparently they were destroying A&M fans' property outside the stadium after the game because they were so upset about losing. And I'm like, okay, get a life, please. It's just a game.
I mean, congrats to Tennessee. It's really fortunate for the Tennessee National Guard that they pulled that game off, because Knoxville might have been on fire if we ended up coming back and winning that game.
They wouldn't have been able to handle it.
No. There wouldn't have been enough volunteers in the state to handle that fiasco.
That's my favorite stand-up comedy. What is a Tennessee fan? Or what is a Tennessee mascot? The volunteer. I'll do it. It's me. I'll do it. Like that's what Auburn might need that at quarterback by the end of the year.
Ooh, speaking of Auburn, let's dive right in. We'll start at the top or semi the top. LSU at Auburn. LSU is a 9-point favorite.
That's it.
Yeah.
Auburn doesn't want to win this game. Auburn doesn't want to win any game. You can tell.
So are they full on? Who was it that Herm Edwards, his assistant coaches and stuff, were leaking plays and leaking information to getting fired? Did you see that?
I did. That makes me. I don't know how I feel about that.
You think Carson's at that point now to where people are? I mean, obviously the Auburn administration's actively sabotaging him. I mean, they've done that to everybody. I mean, I guess Tommy Tuberville's the last guy who was able to not have the Auburn administration shoot him directly in the kneecaps the moment he lands.
Honestly, the Auburn administration, and I've seen this, like people are like, oh, A&M is the Cowboys of college football. I said, no. Auburn is the Cowboys of college football. Also, there's no I in hair. Whoever said that. Jordan Hare, Hare. Just saying. I only know that because I visited.
I agree with both things. There is no I in Jordan Hare, but also the Spirits will have their blood. And if there's one college football campus that when they are out for blood, you do not want to step foot on it, it is Jordan Hare in the Plains. I'm hoping for some Auburn magic. They almost had it last year with Bama. That honestly Auburn somehow managed to be the one thorn or one the one consistent I don't get this
hurtful.
joke.
Okay, that's hurtful.
I don't get this joke, but I'll throw it up there and laugh along with it.
There's no offense in A&M.
Okay. I thought it was a 0. Okay, gotcha.
I was hoping it's not a 0 because that would be Anais, and that's just mean.
Well.
In TAMU.
That's a good one. Okay, I like that. That's funny. So I think that LSU. I called the LSU Mississippi State game. I thought when Mississippi State was up like 13-0, I was looking and I was like, man, every single team I picked to win is kind of getting smashed. Maybe my Gators are in trouble tonight. And then LSU won, and I was like, okay, maybe I do know what I'm talking about. And then my team's been in trouble for 3 weeks straight now. So my picks are that's the one that I can point to and say, you know what, I did say LSU is going to beat Mississippi State by 2 touchdowns. And then they won by 15, and I was like right here. And then I think I got every other pick wrong, including Florida versus Tennessee. But I think that Auburn's going to pull some magic out here. I think that I think Brian Harson's just going to be, he's going to, as my high school football announcer would say, he's going to hang in there like a hair in a biscuit.
Okay.
Think about it. It makes sense if you think about it.
Oh, it makes sense, but I'm just going to let that one be there.
Yeah, it's gross, but I think that LSU just isn't a very good football team. I mean, Brian Kelly, I don't understand why you'd hire Brian Kelly. I wouldn't want Brian Kelly.
Can't stand Brian Kelly.
I mean, he's just a chode. But I do think that they're better than Auburn. I do think he's a better coach than Brian Harsin, and I think they have more talent on their roster. Who seems like Keyshawn Bowdy is actually interested in playing football again. Losing Mason Smith is going to hurt their defense, but they still have Ojolari, who's a beast off the edge. So I do think that LSU's probably gonna play some stout defense. I don't know, man. I feel like this is gonna be Auburn's gonna block a punt for a safety, and then it's gonna Daniel Carson's or whoever their kicker is, Anders Carson, the brother. It's gonna be like a 12-11 type of game or something. I just feel it in my bones. Yeah, yeah.
Bixby. Twitter finger's going too fast, friend.
Character limit. That we'll go with that. The character limit on Facebook. But I do think that is Ashford still injured? I haven't seen. I know he went out in the game.
So who's going to be their quarterback? Because it can't be Calzada now, unless he lied.
I mean, I've heard rumors that there is a potential walk-on named Kason Jamble, and he might look a little long in the tooth, but he's he's like a 14th year senior. Cam Newton's busy, so we got to go back to Jason Campbell to get the walk-on to fill in the gaps, but. I mean, tryouts. Got a spider or something?
Anybody want to be a quarterback?
Yeah,
I'm here.
I think that Auburn's just going to do some weird stuff all game. I think they're going to know they don't have a quarterback. They got one of the best running backs in college football. I think they're going to do some weird stuff. Gus Malzahn would do it to where if this was a Gus Malzahn team, you would not convince me that they would not run the option the entire game. I don't know if Brian Harsin – I don't know if he has that in him, but that's what he should do.
Is this the game that keeps Brian Harsin's job the same way that every time Les Miles beat A&M, he got to keep his job a year longer?
Yes. Every single – game for the rest of the season is going to be the game that Brian Harsin coaches for his job, because Auburn is just waiting for him to lose again before they pull the plug. If he doesn't win out the next game he loses, especially if it's to anybody not named Alabama or Georgia, if he loses to any other team, I think he's fired before the weekend's up. Is it deserved? I don't know. I think Brian Harsin might be a good coach. I just don't understand why you would hire a guy who's never been in the Southeast to be your coach. So who you got? LSU or Auburn? LSU 9 points.
LSU.
You think LSU wins by 9?
At least I don't see Auburn wanting to win this game because I feel like the players don't want to play for Harsin.
Well, yeah, that I can see that. So I think Auburn. I think that between the magic at Jordan Hare and maybe just spite, I think that there's going to be some good old fashioned spite from Harsin to where maybe some of the players don't want to play for him, and eventually it's just a ticking time bomb. I think that, given the circumstances to where it's like, screw it, let's just throw some kids out there and see what happens. It's not like we can run an offense. We'll have a quarterback. Just go Wildcat, do like Kentucky did with Lynn Bowden a few years ago, to where you just scheme some stuff up and let him go crazy.
Why not?
Yeah, if he doesn't, then he's just going to get fired. So, I mean, who cares? Just go crazy, man. And I think that's going to be the strategy, is Brian Harsin's just going to say, screw it, let's just do some stuff, and is going to be able to beat Brian Kelly. That's my prediction. I think it's going to be a really close game. And I think Auburn gets the win, and Brian Harsin lives for another day.
Another day. That's
Yeah.
the caveat. Maybe not a whole week.
Yeah, I can't. Depending on what time they kick off next Saturday, I can't guarantee another week. You might be fired before the entire 7 days is up. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I'm interested. I think that Tank Bigsby and Robbie Ashford, if he's healthy, or whatever wide receiver ends up taking snaps at quarterback for him, kind of like the Broncos had to do a couple of years ago with when every quarterback in their quarterback room got COVID.
Oh,
They just
yeah.
they just ended up pulling a kid off the practice squad to be their starting quarterback, and he was just awful and got destroyed, and it was pitiful. And but that's the NFL. You can't get away with that in the NFL. You can't get away with it in college because they're not NFL. They're not professionals.
I like
So
that after LSU is Georgia, and we're gonna tear their spines through their chest.
yeah,
Well, we can do that to Missouri as well.
yeah. Unlike the game on Saturday for Missouri, I think we can get this over with quick because Missouri is going to fill every second of that 60 minutes while they're getting handed to them. I don't think we need to say much more than disembowelment. And I think that UGA covers 28 points against Missouri. Missouri's just bad. Like, I watched the Missouri Auburn game, and I mean,
no one wanted to win.
yeah, I mean, they're just bad. Like, last year I saw it with our team to where you watch them play and you're like, dude, like sometimes. So I'm sorry to get distracted here, but Vernon Hargraves was the first time I really noticed this, to where I noticed a sophomore, junior type of player making business decisions, particularly corners and like defensive backs, to where you see the 190-pound corner coming up the tackle with a 220-pound running back. And instead of going for the tackle, they just hope that they can shove them out of bounds. And to me, it's a business decision. This guy knows that if I take this hit, I'm probably going to get hurt, and now I'm not going to get drafted. So I'm just going to dive at his legs. I'm going to push him out of bounds and hope for the best. That's what I saw just all game from those guys. I mean, nobody was trying to hit. Nobody was trying to make a play. Nobody was trying to get hurt. They just wanted to get that game over with and move on to the next one. And somehow Missouri found a way to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. No, I had that backwards. Yeah. Auburn managed to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. Yeah.
Honestly, Auburn didn't even do anything. Like, if you watch the Missouri fumble through the end zone, there's not an Auburn defender that actually hit the ball.
Yep.
He just kind of went, I don't want this anymore.
He tried to reach it across the pylon and just let go of it, and it bounced out, and game over.
I don't want this. I don't want to win. So here you go.
Yeah.
I changed my mind.
Enjoy. Yeah. So do you think Drinkwitz, what would the score need to be? Obviously Georgia's a great team. What would the score need to be for Missouri's administration to jump into the Nebraska, Arizona State, coaching carousel?
I'm gonna bring a moment from my past, 77-0. If anybody remembers that. Fun time with OU, 77-0. So honestly, if you can't put up a field goal after Kent State just put up 22, send them all home.
I mean, I feel that 50 plus 0. Yeah, I think if you get shut out, anything over about 35-0 to where you can't even put up points and they're kind of scoring at will, you're starting to get into that territory for me. I could see obviously either one of those scores are worse than that. I just don't understand why teams have started firing coaches so early. But guys like Drink and Harsin, it kind of feels like Clay Helton and obviously Gus Malzahn before them, to where once the fever pitch starts of people saying he's on the hot seat, why is he still there? It's kind of hard to unwind that. But yeah, I think Georgia probably all week long they have been told you let Kent State put up 22 points, and you know we're gonna get that sorted out because it's not like I said when we kind of started. To me, it was a lot more about Georgia gifting Kent State possessions and points with turnovers and good field position and things like that than it was Kent State figuring out the formula to moving the ball against Georgia. I think generally, if you're banking on a team having 4 turnovers and a half to win, you're going to lose a lot of games. And Georgia still was able to kind of handle that game despite those things. And Missouri, I don't see a way for them to move the ball, especially not if Luther Burden doesn't play. Speaking of business decisions.
Honestly.
So yeah, I got Georgia with the minus 28. Sounds like you do as well. That one's going to get ugly fast, and hopefully that nerd gets fired soon. And I don't say that lightly as a nerd. I don't call people nerds lightly. Eli Drinkwitz is a nerd.
Hopefully, y'all do the same thing. What is it? East Washington? Eastern Washington?
Tomato, tomato. I'm not really sure. All I know is they have a red field.
That's fun.
Yeah, it is fun. Yeah.
Maroon field.
It's a lot though. It's kind of like Boise State's, but instead of being Boise State's blue, it's red. Yeah, Kirby's probably got a nice little pregame speech for Drinkwitz. He didn't like that Dan Mullen prank too much, but he got his revenge on the field. So good for that nerd. Yeah, we have a little, some logistical stuff going on, having to move it to Sunday. Kind of talked about it earlier. The things I'm keying in on, I want to see AR follow up that performance that he had this past weekend. He still he looked great. Don't get me wrong. He was still barely above. He was like 24 for 44, so like 58%. Want to see him get that back up over 60, closer to 70%, like he had against Utah. And then I want to see the young guys play. I mean, we should have handled USF. USF just ground and pound us. I mean, they just rushed it. Excuse me, just rushed it down our throats, and we can never get that advantage to get the young guys in there. We already have a couple of true freshmen on the starting depth chart. Kamari Wilson taking over for Trey Dean, Shamar James stepping in there to starting linebacker. He's already started pretty much every game this year as a true freshman. We have thankfully just guys who really are not difference makers at the SEC level, and they've been on our roster and been starters even. And that's a big reason why we got rid of Dan Mullen is he just didn't bring in those studs that Georgia and Bama and Texas A&M are bringing in now. And it's either get with the times or get left behind. And hopefully we made the change quick enough for mine and Kate's sake and the rest of Gator Nation, and Billy's able to get things turned around. But our roster is ugly right now. Like
it's not recruiting season, don't you?
Yeah, it's not recruiting season. It's wakeboarding season. So who knew when your coach has that mentality, it's gonna lead you with some deficits. And that's kind of been our big problem on, especially on defenses. Defensive line depth has been a big problem. And obviously safety play, and hopefully Kamari getting his chance to come in and he handles business against a team like Eastern Washington. I couldn't even find a spread for this game. I don't know. I mean, if we win by less than 4 touchdowns, obviously we probably should win by more than that. Eastern Washington's a decent little FCS team. It's just a game that we should put away and should win pretty easily. And so, if we have a repeat of USF or Samford, I'm just going to be miserable. I mean, people are losing their minds over how bad our defense has looked, and it's looked pretty bad. Tennessee and USF in particular. I hate saying that out loud, but USF is the only team that's outgained us this year. Like, we had more yards than every other Tennessee, Kentucky, and Utah. USF is the one team that had more yards than us. But our defense just has to step up, and hopefully, I was hoping USF would be a get right game. Hopefully, this is the get right game, and then we can handle business against South Carolina, Missouri, LSU, Texas A&M, those kind of more of coin flip games, and then hopefully not get disemboweled by Georgia, and then obviously beat FSU. I mean, as long as we make a bowl game and beat FSU, I'd like to be better than that year one, but with how bad last year was, be a step in the right direction. If we got to 8-4, I'd be pretty happy with a dub over FSU and Texas A&M.
Oh, we gonna fight. Me and you were going at it right now. A couple weeks to go.
I had to throw that in there. That's going to be a fun week.
Hopefully, Kate will be back for that one.
All right. So I don't think we really need to spend much time on South Carolina State at South Carolina. Like us, their game got moved to tomorrow for the Hurricanes. That's going to be making its way up there. Everybody stay safe. Everybody's okay. So we got some good ones. Which one you want to start with?
Let's just go in order. We got number 7 Kentucky at number 14 Ole Miss. I've got Kentucky. I'm calling it right now. Kentucky,
Ole Miss,
ready for the top 10, man. For now.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Ole Miss. I think that.
I haven't watched enough Ole Miss football.
Honestly, Kentucky, good stat. Look at that. We got some good stat finders out here in the chat. Appreciate it. I think that, kind of going back to what I was just saying about outgaining our opponents. I mean, Kentucky's got a stout defense. They're not going to beat themselves. They just, even in the games they've won, they really haven't looked particularly impressive. Like Tennessee, they looked impressive in their wins. You can always discredit their opponents or whatever, but they look good. They beat a good Pitt. They beat us. They beat 2 mediocre, G5 teams, but they look good doing it. Kentucky's not look good doing it, and I think that this is going to be the first domino of those teams that we see every year who start out 4-0. Sometimes it's been Florida, sometimes it's been Tech. We've all seen the teams. You start off September pretty strong, you get into the top 10, top 15 or so, and then you face your first real test, and then you lose, and then you realize, oh, we're actually like a 9-3 type of team and not a top 10 team. I think that starts this weekend. I think Ole Miss handles it by probably a touchdown.
Yep, that's what I was going to say. See, Chris Rodriguez is back, though.
Don't care. I think Will Levis is absolutely I don't know about Big Blue Nation is ascending. I'm telling you, Mark Stoops will be at FSU by the end of the year. By December 31st, Mark Stoops will be in Tallahassee.
Does people want to be in Tallahassee? Jimbo don't. We learned that quick.
I don't think he wants to be in Lexington. Would you rather be in Lexington, Kentucky, or Tallahassee? I don't know. At least Florida doesn't have state income tax.
Fair. I
mean, that's the best I got. At least, I don't know. I'll give it to Norvell. Maybe he doesn't get fired this year. And I hope Mark Stoops goes to like Nebraska or something.
Nebraska, where there's lots of corn.
Yes, I think he would absolutely do perfectly well at Nebraska.
Hold on, now Tally has some good response. I don't know. I've never been to Tallahassee. The only place I've been in Florida is Orlando.
Oh, you're missing out.
I missed out on going to the last Florida game that we played in, what's it called? Why did I just go blank? In Gator Nation, I just went blank.
Gainesville.
Thank you. I don't know where that went in my head. I think I'm too tired for this. I was like, Gator Nation is in, the place with the Gators. God.
Yeah, Tallahassee's mid. I don't really like too many one-way streets. I'm an old
Downtown
man at heart. Okay, you need to plan your city out better, youngins.
do
That's
better.
my if you're not using the grid system for your city layout, when you get a chance, pull up a map of Tallahassee. It is absolute chaos. There is no rhyme or reason for if I told you, "Hey, meet me at Northwest 17th Road," you could find it. You never need to visit that city before. You could find it because the roads would increase as you went north. If I tell you to meet me at Orange Bluff Pass and you have no idea where you're going, or Osceola Road, and you don't have GPS, obviously. Oh, what? That's a good one. That's smart. That's a topical burn there. But yeah, it's just that that's my takeaway on Tallahassee. But yeah, Ole Miss covers the 7. I think against Kentucky. Big Blue Nation is a different shade of blue.
Descending. Hey, now, no thumbs down here. Just kidding. I honestly don't care because it's only a penalty if you do horns down. So.
Yeah, apparently, yeah.
If they take that shit to the SEC, I swear to God.
I mean, it's coming. Prepare yourself.
God, I hope we get to do it. We do it anyway.
Yeah, that's my takeaway too.
Do it at the end of the game where it doesn't matter. Get fined. Jimbo will pay for it. It don't matter.
Jimbo, all right. Who you got in Bama and Arkansas? What's your takeaway on this? You're probably more familiar with these teams because I really haven't watched much of them at all. I watched a little bit of Arkansas's games the past 2 weeks, and that's been about it.
I watched Texas Bama. That was a shit show for Bama, and I hope they can do better. And I watched obviously all of the A&M Arkansas game. Obviously. I can tell you right now, Bama is the better team. However, Arkansas did take Bama down to the wire. I don't know what the exact score was, but somebody pointed this out to me that Arkansas did take Bama to the wire last year. And Bama was significantly better and doing better at that point than they are at this point. Because at that point, they hadn't, had a really close game with Texas. When Arkansas had 35-28. Thank you. So Arkansas had just blown out Texas that year. So, and I don't think Texas is all that much better this year than they were last year.
I thought I had really, and there's still plenty of time for this to come to fruition. I thought this Bama team was going to be like a 2020 type Bama team that you look back and you're like, man, they got Will Anderson, Bryce Young, they got all these guys on the offensive line. I thought they got the corner Eli Ricks from LSU. I thought this was going to be one of those Bama teams that was an all-timer, and so far that looks very wrong. They've looked pretty middling. At least maybe, and again, this kind of goes back to what I was saying last week with the Penn State Purdue game, to where maybe I'm putting too much importance on that one game because that just happens to be the game that I watched. Because I watched the Texas Bama game too, and they just didn't look like a number 1 or number 2 team against a spunky Texas team who turned around and immediately lost to Texas Tech
after almost. Even though they did come back in the second half, but like that first half against UTSA too.
Yeah.
What? You almost beat Bama and you follow it up with that?
Yep.
Like you allow UTSA to get the onside kick. Like what?
Yeah, the receivers. I was reading an interesting discussion about that today about how Saban's coaching turnover, he's done a good job of replacing guys as he's needed to over the past 15 years. but at least in terms of offensive coaching and development, they've recruited well. They've signed, guys. Ja'Cory Brooks was a guy who was a big time want for Florida. Ajayi Hall, I'm not even sure if he's still on the team, but he was a very highly ranked guy.
He's at Texas.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So they've gotten highly ranked guys, and they just and obviously this doesn't we it kind of goes back to the national championship game, to where once they were without John Mechie and Jamison Williams, these next 4-star, 5-star guys that you go back to 2018 when Tua led him back. It was a true freshman quarterback throw into a true freshman wide receiver, and doing against a really good Georgia team. It didn't happen this year because those guys just really don't seem to be as good. I mean, that's just really is the short and simple of it. So I still think Bama handles this pretty easily. Now that I've learned Dargan's deep, dark secret that he is actually a hater, I don't feel compelled to root for Arkansas because he was actively rooting against Florida. And I will never let him forget that by sending my energy, my anti-Arkansas energy, out into the universe.
I have thought of that if I need to share it. I love anti-Arkansas energy.
So Arkansas, I've kind of always been a slight Arkansas fan because when I was in high school, I got to go on an unofficial visit to Ole Miss, and it was 2007 when Arkansas was playing Ole Miss. And Darren McFadden and Felix Jones absolutely shredded Ed Orgeron's Ole Miss team, and it was it's the only other SEC stadium I've ever been in is Vaught Hemingway, and it was a good experience. But I I kind of like both of those teams because of that. And then we had to face off with Arkansas in the SEC title game the year before and stuff like that. So.
But did
Until
they $280,000 on your official visit?
It was an unofficial, so I actually had to pay.
Darn.
Yeah, but I still got invited though. I still got to meet Ed Orgeron, so that's pretty cool. I didn't understand a word he was saying. He's no easier to understand in person than he is on TV. But I don't think Bama covers the 17. I don't really care about the spreads. I'm not a betting man. It's kind of nice just to gauge the expected discrepancy. Yeah, I don't. I feel like a 14-point win's not really squeaking it out. But yeah, I agree with that sentiment, to where if Bama were peak Bama, the game
shouldn't be close.
Yeah, it shouldn't be close. I do feel like, and maybe this is for next week. We'll kind of touch on this, but I feel like there is a prevailing sentiment in college football to where people's mentality and mindset towards teams is skewed towards the past, and I'm myself am guilty of that. But Arkansas, this is not the Arkansas of 5 years ago. They may not be Bama Georgia level yet, but they're not a speed bump in the SEC anymore. There was some pretty bad damage done to that program between Bobby Petrino and Chad Morris, and John L. Smith was there for a year. Those guys really did a good job of tearing that program down to the studs and really leaving Sam Pittman nothing. And the fact that he's been able to get things going kind of well, I just think that Arkansas as a program, their peak is probably 9-3 or 10-2 type of teams, and you've already lost to Texas A&M. To do that and to really be successful, you got to beat the Bama and the Georgia or an LSU if they're on top or whatever. And I just don't see it. I mean, I think Bama wins by 2 touchdowns, but yeah, I don't really have any faith in Arkansas to pull that one off.
It brings us to our last game, the Aggies at Mississippi State, a la revenge from last year.
Take it away. This is all you. What's your, how you feeling?
I have opinions. Will Rogers is not as great as people think he is, and the A&M defense is going to show that. I'm really sick of people saying that the A&M defense is going to get exposed this week. If we got exposed, we got exposed against App State, and even then, that was only 17 points. So, like, and also we're number 17, and they're not ranked for a reason.
So I'm looking through. How did you guys only manage 297 yards in the game last year?
Zach Calzada. That's all I have to say about that. That was I'm pretty sure that was pre-Bama. Yeah, that was pre-Bama. So it was like Zach Calzada awakening. I guess if you want to.
Zach Calzada experience was still incubating.
It was an experience that ended with "you can all suck my dick." So that's how that experience ended. No, we didn't run the ball like we should have. I honestly remember crying at the end of that game, like just out of pure frustration, because I'm almost positive we had the ball at the end of the game, down one possession, and threw an interception. And by we, I mean Zach Calzada.
Yeah.
So.
The infamous
Calzone.
Yeah.
Love you. If you're ever listening to this, I love you. You beat Bama for us. That was a fun time. 41-38. That was the final score. There you go. I remember that because it was the same final score as the Florida game in 2020.
I'm pretty sure that I thought they were both 34-31.
Now I have to look.
No, you're right.
I have I had a 12th man towel that says we beat Bama and it's got the score on it.
Well, I stand corrected. Again, every time we have a bad season, I just block literally every game out of my brain.
2020, 41-38, Seth Small field goal at Kyle Field. 2022 or 2021. If you put that out in the universe, I swear to God, cowbells win 10-6, 3 safeties. Put that shit in the universe. Max Johnson does know how to beat Mississippi State, though.
He does.
Times. And by many times, I mean probably once. Maybe twice.
Yeah, Max Johnson gave us fits last year.
So, and now he's here. And I was a firm believer that it was going to be Max Johnson from the start. And then other people told me, no, it's going to be Haynes King. And I said, okay, I'll jump on that bandwagon. Sure. Why did I jump on that bandwagon? Why did I let myself do that when I knew Haynes King was ass? Like, I don't know. But here we are.
It happens to the best of us.
We are back on the Max Johnson bandwagon until they throw Connor Wingman out there. Which may be hopeful, maybe soon, maybe not. Y'all gonna have to shut him out though. How many TDs is A-Chain gonna score for you? I'm hoping he doesn't have to score all of them, but I do need to say that I'm going to eat my words. And A-Chain proves to me that he can be an every down back with his 159 yards. So yeah, I'm sorry, Devon A-Chain. Just like when I wrote an article once about who the running back was going to be post Trevion Williams, I forgot that Devon A-Chain was on the roster. Well, I didn't forget. He was listed as an athlete, not a running back at that point. So I just skipped over him. And he tweeted at me and said, "You forgot me in your article." And I was like, "Okay." Sorry, friend. Let me edit it for you. And since then, he has lived his whole life proving me wrong. I'm choosing to believe that.
It happens.
Like that's it.
So Mississippi State is a 3-point favorite.
Aggies by 7.
Aggies by 7. I think Aggies by like 10 or even 14. I watched the beginning of the LSU game That's who they played last week, right? I'm not.
2 weeks ago.
I'm not. Okay, who did they play last week?
LSU played New Mexico last week. Mississippi
I'm
State.
just permanently living 2 weeks ago for some reason. I told you it was a
I
heck
don't
of a
think
day.
Mississippi State played last week.
They played Bowling Green.
Oh, that's
Okay.
why I didn't.
So maybe that's why I blocked both of those games out. They just played 2-0s, and then in my mind, those games just didn't even exist.
It's fine. They don't exist. Please understand that all my spite is directed at Jimbo and his sour milk offense. That's fair. That's fair. My spite's directed there too.
It is pretty vanilla. So I think that Texas A&M's defense is going to be able to shut Mississippi State down. Obviously, they're going to get yards, but I don't think they're going to be able to do it enough to win. I'll take the Aggies by 10 on that one.
I've got Devontae Richardson with a defensive touchdown. Calling it right now. Give him a second.
Spicy.
Give him a second one because I enjoy Devontae. And the fact that after he got ejected for targeting against Miami, he tweeted that football was soft because you get ejected for tackling now. I was like, damn.
Classic.
All right, damn, Damani, but at least here's the difference. Damani Richardson, good football player, backs up his talk. Leon O'Neal, not good football player, doesn't back up his talk.
Good at tweeting, not good at other things.
Complains about bad videos of him being posted on Twitter.
Yes.
Gets them taken down. I have my opinions about Leon, even though I do have a towel that says "Wake him up, number 9." Mostly because they didn't have the It's Spiller Time towels when I bought that one, and I needed a 12th man towel, so I got the Leon O'Neal one, and then the next week I got my Spiller Time one. So
you can throw it away.
Throw it away. I handed
put it where it belongs.
I handed my sorority little's boyfriend my 12th man towel that has the Alabama score on it, and he goes, "This is a lucky towel." I was like, "Oh God." And then we were down 14-0, and he goes, "Maybe I should give this back."
Yeah.
Like, no, it'll be okay. It'll be okay. Don't worry. And it was okay, so it's fine. Oink doink later. God.
All right. Well, that is pretty much it for us. You got anything else you want to touch on? Anything we didn't cover?
As always, Gigamags forever and ever and ever and always. That's all I have to say about that.
I like it. Go Gators. Stay safe, Florida, Tampa. You guys are getting rocked. I don't know if we even have anybody that is listening down there, but hey, go Gators. And I am excited about the fact that we get to watch college football on Sunday that doesn't involve Notre Dame.
Gross.
It seems like every time there's a Sunday game, it's either Notre Dame or FSU playing. So at least we get to rep for the SEC.
I'll be moving during the A&M game, so let's hope that they don't.
Lucky you. I will be sitting in front of my couch enjoying a Saturday of football.
Sad. Me sad. I don't want to move. I just want to watch football.
Yeah, moving is a god-awful experience that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy, and everybody has to deal with.
Around the corner. I'm only moving like my building, new building. Right?
Oh, that's pretty sweet then.
So it shouldn't take too long, but as long as we get the TV hooked up by 3:00,
you're good to go. All right, well, and good luck moving. Good luck to your Ags. We will touch base next week, and hopefully we both come away with dubs.
Here's to hoping.
Go Gators.
Gig 'em.